Welcome back to VaderVision. Today I figured we should probably catch up on something we haven't...
Oh, hey.
Well, hey yourself.
How's it going?
It's going alright.
What are you up to?
Well, I figured maybe we do a grow room tour.
Oh, that sounds great. That sounds like a lot of fun. I could show you around a little bit. Come on in. It'll be fun. It's only like,
Yeah?
5 years too late, but sure, better late than never.
Well, to be fair, we...
Don't give me any excuses.
I know.
Come on. Let's get on with this.
Okay. Let's go. So, when we moved down from LA down south, instead of renting an industrial unit like I had in the past, I actually went ahead and purchased because we got basically booted out after our lease. They decided not to renew our lease, and that was such a pain to rip everything out. So I didn't want to have to be subject to somebody else having an issue with us renting anywhere, regardless of acceptance or legality issues. We went ahead and purchased our own place, and there was a nice space for what I wanted to utilize as the area that I could film and use for YouTube and media content. So there was a 20 by 20 room that I thought would be perfect for it. I originally was going to use the entire room and set the chambers up over on the side, and then I'd have a lot more room to walk around with the camera, be able to shoot from different angles, and that would have been nice and convenient. But in the end, would have cost more as far as climate control, things like that, and it would have been a waste of space. So I wanted to be able to have tools out here, a workbench, some extra storage. Water containers wouldn't be inside the room getting heated up by the lights, or I wouldn't have to cover them. So in the end, it just seemed to make more sense to build a room inside of a room. The previous owner had put in a ceiling with floor joists and put in a area for storage up here. It's not a full 8-foot ceiling up here. I can not quite stand up in it. It's only about 6.5 feet tall, but it's perfect for storage, so I did want to keep it. I did think about removing it if I were to blow out the entire 20 by 20 room. That would give me like 14-foot ceilings, and if I were using double-ended HPS bulbs or something crazy, but I knew that we wanted to run LEDs eventually, weren't going to need a larger commercial grow, so there was no point in removing the ceiling, and this would also give me a bunch of extra storage since we have all the gear for going to events, tents, and all kinds of stuff. Plus, I have plenty of extra grow equipment and things, fans, also building equipment, everything. Besides basic tools that I do want to use more on a regular basis that can be stored and utilized outside of this room. And here, let's just start with the basic bare bones of how this particular room is constructed. I have 2x4s that we are utilizing as our studs and plates. Made 4 simple walls with a door right in the middle. That way chambers can be on the left, and we can have a testing area on the right, and then a walk area right in the middle to be able to access everything. This is the framing for the chambers. They slide in right on this side and fit perfectly. Each of them fit a 4x4 low tide tray. The larger trays with the lips on them don't quite fit in here with the measurements, although if someone were building a custom unit, you could set it for whatever kind of tray you want. But we use the low tide trays and they don't have side lips, so they're a little bit tighter. So having these extra studs in here aren't a problem, where on this side, I can use the larger trays and worked it out so that you don't have to worry about it since we don't have the extra frame studs that are tightening up that area. But again, if you're making a custom room, then you just make your measurements accordingly. But if we want to be able to break down the chambers here and utilize the entire space, we could. It is still modular, or if I wanted to, it is designed large enough that I could put in a second set of chambers over here, and I could run 4 chambers all together, and then I wouldn't need the big open space, and then that would allow me a little bit more flexibility, which I did originally think about doing, but because we were shooting for YouTube and I wanted to be able to show a balanced room between having some chambers that you could seal up for breeding while also running testing, it just worked out that way. So that's the design I ended up going with. And as we can see here, the measurements from our previous example, we are 8.5 feet tall, 14 feet long, and 10 feet wide. And there is a little bit of room back here against this wall where I ran some ducting around. So the ducting for the chambers run out this wall and around them back to side. And then over here on this wall is a vent out where everything is vented out. That way I didn't have to put things through the ceiling and get in the way of the second story and move anything through the roof. We're just going out the side wall over on this side. So that makes venting and climate control pretty easy. For skinning the room, I went ahead and put drywall or sheetrock around the outside of the 3 walls on this side. Makes it easy to seal up, and it's a lot cheaper than plywood, but I did want to put plywood on the front wall. This way I can put ballasts and attach them right to the wall, some electrical equipment, anything else, cabinet. Just makes it easy without even having to worry about hitting studs for a lot of small gear. So this allows a little extra attachment points, but save a couple of bucks and not skinning the entire thing in plywood with the price of lumber and plywood. For the inside, we went ahead and we're using foam insulation panels with foil skinning. So we got the skin of the foil on one side, and then it's foam insulation panels, skin them on the end. For the chambers on the front, I also use plywood, and we use plywood for the bottom base. Just adds a little bit extra strength. And although over here in this example there is a foam panel, I actually went ahead and put a plywood panel here so I can mount the bracket for the air conditioning head unit right here above the doorway. But we also put fiberglass insulation rolls, the traditional ones that you put in between studs, just to give it some more insulation for climate control. It can also help with noise if noise is a concern for you. Here it's technically not much of a concern for me, but if it were, it also can be really helpful to put in the insulation on the inside. So I do recommend doing it. It just tidies everything up and creates a nice seal of air for everything. And in the end, we have our full room set up, sealed up, and ready for all of the equipment and everything to go. I hope you guys enjoyed the SketchUp modeling viewpoint for everything, just to give a little bit more of a deep dive into the construction and how we actually set up the room framing for inside of the larger room. All right, before we dive inside the room, let's check out a couple things outside the room. First, nutrient station and workbench. Got some drawers here with a cabinet that I got for free. This was just sitting outside another industrial unit at our last place, so I snatched it along with this cabinet, which works great to hold all kinds of extra stuff that I want to have easy access to, especially near this particular room. All the little knickknacks ranging from our electrical conductivity meter to scissors to extra IPM materials, humidity regulators for jars. Got our Method 7s. Actually, I only have the ones for HPS. I should probably get some for LED actually at some point. For now, I just dim the LEDs when I'm working in the room. We got our nutrient station here on the workbench. This is where I store the active nutrients that I am using. Although I do test out new nutrients from time to time and see them in other friends' grows. Canna is still holding it down for me in the grow, so I've continued using it. We got some gloves on the way into the room so I can grab those nice and easy when messing with the plants. Over on the left-hand side, we have a water station with some extra storage for nutrients. I got 2 55-gallon barrels right outside this room so I can handle all 4 40-gallon reservoirs, a 25-foot hose, and a little giant pump. I've only had one die on me throughout the years of all the pumps I've been through, and that was user error. So love these pumps, can't recommend them enough. And this simple setup allows me to pump this reverse osmosis water right directly into the reservoirs in the room. I also have a crate with some Rainmaker spray bottles. These are just pressurized sprayers. Got one for IPM, switch that around to different things from time to time. Got one for Rhizotonic, and I got one that is strictly for reverse osmosis water, so I can just use clean water to spray things off if I need to. Cruising on over to the right side of the entryway, I got a tool cabinet here that I can just easily roll out of the way if I need access to the electrical equipment that is mounted to the wall. Got our ballast, light box, and a fire extinguisher set up right here for easy access. As well, I do have a sub panel that runs from the main panel very close, and this sub panel runs for this particular room and an adjacent room next door. Got a 240 volt lighting controller specifically for this room, and it's connected up to an analog timer. Mounted above the light box is all of the ballasts, including a couple of dimmer switches for some of the LEDs. We also have 2 digital ballasts that are powering the chambers with HPS bulbs in their hoods. And last but certainly not least, a little fire suppression fire extinguisher right by the door, easy to grab even with the cabinet rolled out in front of the way. It's right there. On the left-hand side of the door before we enter the room, temperature, relative humidity, plus we can read inside the room. And for the air conditioner, got the control out here. Just set it to 80, but it always goes off when it's 76 or 78 and starts turning on power. Slipping on into the actual room, checking out the testing area first. We got our chilled Growcraft LED lights. Switched over to these and been testing them out. This generation has been working great, haven't had any problems. Love these lights, got a 600 on the right and the equivalent Thowie on the left. Both of these lights have been performing really well, and I'd say jury's still out on which one I would actually prefer, the 600 versus the Thowie, but I do think that in most cases the 600 would be more than enough for most people. As far as our air system goes, got AC infinity setup, got a 6-inch fan with a carbon filter. Dust cover is looking a little dirty, could clean that out or actually swap it out with a fresh one. Carbon's doing really well. 6-inch fan. I actually don't keep it fully powered in this particular room. One of my favorite features with these fans is that you can dim them and set the amount of power accordingly, and I paired it along with this silencer. You can also see one of the Thowie ballasts with the dimmer is in this room. It needed a slightly longer connector cable, but I actually ended up leaving it in this room. And finally, a shot of the intake duct. This runs from a lung room to bring clean, clear air from the facility into this room. So it's technically not sealed, so we don't run CO2 inside this room, but we do have an intake from a lung room. Floating down to our tray setup, I have started switching out some of my stands. I was trying these particular ones. They're lightweight, easy to break down, and they got some wheels on them if I want to move things around. So I've been trying out these stands, although I might go back to the wood stands just because when I'm doing the time lapse, these flex a little bit and it looks kind of funny in the time lapse. You'll see it in the next video series. While doing the time lapse, there's a little bit of bumping going on every time the water fills and the stands flex a little bit. This area is sporting 40-gallon reservoirs from Botanicare, and we got some Eco Plus 185 pumps. These work great for pumping water out of the reservoir up into the tray. Once it hits the overflow, then on that larger tube, it flows right back down into the reservoir, runs analog for 15 minutes, cycles water through, get lots of oxygen in there so I don't need to run any air stones. Makes things really simple and pretty bulletproof, so love this system. Always my go-to for personal and even smaller commercial grow setups. Flipping over to the other side of the room, we have our custom chambers designed so that we can run breeding inside these rooms and have males put out plenty of pollen without affecting any of the testers or any other breed chambers next door. I also run Botanicare 4x4 trays, but these are low tide trays. They don't have extra side lips on them, so they slip into the chambers a little bit more snug, which is nice. Also got 40-gallon reservoirs and the same pump setup for these. Analog timer makes things simple, run for 15 minutes, and again, lots of water flow and extra oxygen. Here, this slot between the studs underneath goes up through the center of those studs and allows a chamber for air to come through these filters. So when we pull air through this chamber up top, and filtered air can enter the chamber. I mount 2 circulation fans inside the chambers because we lock them up and one is running, but if pollen stops one of the motors, I have redundancy and I can turn on a second fan to get through the cycle. HPS bulb is in a sealed hood, not only so pollen doesn't get all over it, but we can also air cool it with a 4-inch AC infinity fan matched up with a carbon filter and a duct silencer. Technically not needed, but did want to run it in the room and it does keep things a little quieter. We're running 4-inch ducting at the beginning, but it moves to a wider 6-inch ducting for better airflow on the opposite end. Also got a temperature and humidity meter inside of the chamber, so I can get accurate readings inside each of the chambers as well. This setup works just right for a 1000-watt bulb when it's all sealed up, but we still do need a little air conditioning outside, so we have a split air conditioner unit. This one is a little oversized for the room, but of course with air conditioners, it's always recommended to go a little bit bigger than what you need. And with that, I think we're gonna wrap it up right here for our chill grow room walkthrough video. I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions with details that I missed, so drop any questions you have down in the comment section and I'm sure I'll make a follow-up video and we can dive into some more technical details or anything I missed in a future update. Happy 420 to everybody who caught this video on launch day. Make sure to keep an eye out for discounts on all of your favorite products that you do see featured here on this channel. If you want to stay up to date on announcements and get together with like-minded people in the community, make sure to check out our Discord. Link is in the description. Last and certainly not least, if you want to help support the channel, make sure to slam that like button, leave a comment, even if it's just aloha. Your support goes a long way to helping the channel grow. Plus, you can join us over at Patreon if you want to give us some little extra support. Links are in the description as well. Thanks for joining me today, and we will be back again soon enough. We have a brand new series coming with some brand new crosses, so keep an eye out for those uploads coming up here in the near future. Until next time, I'm Vader, and I'll see you later.